The vast command center hummed with activity as Admiral Emma Stone walked through the sliding doors. Screens lined the walls, showing Earth's orbital defenses and the scattered settlements across the solar system. For 5,000 years, humanity had kept to itself, hidden behind layers of signal jamming technology and strict protocols. The Great Silence, they called it. "Admiral, you need to see this." A young officer handed her a data pad, his face pale. Emma's eyes widened. "Confirm this," and now already did 3 times. "It's real." She stared at the reading. For the first time in 5 millennia, an alien signal had broken through Earth's communication blackout. "Get me Captain Reed," she ordered. Captain Jack Reed stood at the viewport of the orbital training station, watching Earth spin below. At 42, he had spent his entire life within the confines of the solar system, like every human since the retreat. History books spoke of a time when humans traveled between stars. But those days were gone, erased by some ancient horror that drove humanity back to its cradle. His commune buzzed. "Captain Reed, report to Earth Defense Command immediately. Priority Alpha." 20 minutes later, he strode into Admiral Stone's office. "Jack," Emma said, using his first name despite their formal setting. They had trained together decades ago. Something impossible just happened. She played the message. Strange sounds filled the room, then shifted to words in an old human language. "The Accord remembers. The debt must be paid." Jack frowned. "The Accord? What's that?" "That's what we need to find out." Emma pulled up a star map. "The signal came from here, at the edge of what was once human space." "How do you know it was once our space?" "Because," she said quietly, "I'm one of 12 people who know the full history. The real history. The Earth Council chamber was rarely used. 24 leaders from Earth's unified nation sat around a circular table, faces grim. "We cannot break the silence," Counselor Davis argued. "Our ancestors had good reasons to withdraw from galactic affairs." Admiral Stone stood firm. The message was sent on frequencies only humans ever used. "It references something called the Accord that isn't in our public records. Someone out there knows us, and they're calling for help." Council Leader James Wright rubbed his forehead. "Admiral, tell them what you told me." Emma took a deep breath. "The message contains coordinates to a star system called Horizon. 5,000 years ago, it was a human colony." Murmurs broke out around the table. "How do you know this?" someone asked. "Because certain military leaders have always carried the true history, passed down through generations. We maintain the silence, but we remember why it began." She activated a holographic display. "I believe whoever sent this message is connected to our past. We need to investigate." After hours of debate, the council agreed to a limited mission. 1 ship, minimal crew, strict observation protocols. 3 days later, Captain Reed walked through the gleaming hull of the Harbinger, Earth's most advanced ship. Though humans had not ventured beyond the solar system in millennia, they had never stopped advancing their technology. The Harbinger represented the pinnacle of human engineering. Fast, well-armed, and equipped with stealth systems that made it nearly invisible to sensors. Dr. Thomas Gray joined him, carrying a small case. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical alien communication, he had been the obvious choice for the mission. "Ever met an alien, Captain?" Gray asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. "No one has. Not in 5,000 years," Reed replied. "And if things go according to plan, we won't either. We observe, we listen, we come home. Where's your sense of adventure?" Reed stopped walking. "This isn't an adventure, Doctor. Something scared humanity so badly that we cut ourselves off from the entire galaxy. We should remember that." In her private office, Admiral Stone unlocked a safe hidden behind her desk. Inside was a small device, ancient by modern standards. She activated it, and a holographic figure appeared, a woman in uniform from 5 millennia ago. "If you're viewing this," the recording said, "then the contingency has been activated. The Accord has called humanity back to war. You must understand what happened before you decide to answer." Emma watched the full recording, her face growing paler with each passing minute. When it finished, she sat in silence for a long time before sending a private message to Captain Reed's ship. The Harbinger's engines hummed, as the crew prepared for departure. Besides Reed and Gray, there were 10 others: navigation experts, security personnel, and Lieutenant Kate Wilson, a military specialist, with a sealed set of orders from Admiral Stone. "Pre-jump checklist complete," announced the navigation officer. "Course to coordinates locked in." Reed settled into the command chair. "Remember, we're observers only. No contact without direct authorization from Earth Command." "And if someone contacts us first?" Gray asked. Reed had no answer for that. The Harbinger rose from Earth's orbital dock, accelerating quickly past the Moon and the Mars outposts. As they approached Jupiter, Reed gave the order to activate the fold space drive technology developed during the silence that allowed travel faster than light. "Drive spinning up," the engineer reported. "Field stability at 100%. Reed looked at the main screen, showing the gas giant Jupiter against the blackness of space. For thousands of years, this had been the farthest humans ventured. Today, they would break that limit. Fold space in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched and twisted around them as the Harbinger punched through the fabric of space. In the privacy of his quarters, Reed opened the message from Admiral Stone. Jack, her recorded image said, "What I'm about to tell you isn't in the mission briefing. The signal we received, it's a warning. Something is coming. Something our ancestors fought once before. If what you find confirms this, you have new orders. Prepare humanity for war." The ship hurtled through fold space toward coordinates, not visited by humans in 5,000 years, carrying with it the possible end of humanity's long silence. As Reed stared at Admiral Stone's grim face on the screen, a chill ran down his spine. The great silence had never been about peace. It had been about hiding, and now something had found them. The Harbinger emerged from fold space with a flash of light. Captain Reed blinked as the main screen adjusted to show their new surroundings. A red dwarf star glowed dimly in the distance, its weak light barely reaching a cluster of planets orbiting it. "Location confirmed," said the navigation officer. "We've arrived at the coordinates." Dr. Gray rushed to the sensor station. "Amazing. Our first journey beyond Sol in 5,000 years. "Focus, Doctor," Reed reminded him. "What are we looking at?" Gray studied the readings. "Third planet seems most likely. It's in the habitable zone, though barely." Lieutenant Wilson moved to stand beside Reed. Her eyes were fixed on the planet, her expression unreadable. Reed had tried several times to learn more about her secret orders, but she had politely refused to share them. "Take us closer," Reed ordered. "Maintain stealth systems at maximum." As they approached the planet, the ship's AI system activated. A holographic woman appeared on the bridge. "Captain, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the third planet," said Athena, the ship's AI. "They match no known pattern in our database." Reed leaned forward. "Is it the source of the signal?" "Negative. The signal originated from something in orbit around the planet. The sensors soon found it, a small station floating in a stable orbit, showing no lights or obvious signs of activity." "It appears to be dormant," said Athena, "but it is definitely of human design." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "That's impossible," one of the officers whispered. "No human has been out here for 5 millennia." Dr. Marcus Bell, the xenohistorian who had been quietly analyzing data since their arrival, finally spoke up. "Not impossible, just forgotten." All eyes turned to him. "Before the Great Silence, humans had colonies across dozens of star systems," Bell explained. "Most were evacuated during the retreat, but historical records suggest some were lost or abandoned." Reed made his decision. "Prepare a shuttle. Dr. Bell, Dr. Gray, Lieutenant Wilson, you're with me." The shuttle approached the station cautiously. Up close, the structure was clearly ancient, its hull marked with scars from space debris and radiation. But something had kept it functioning all these years. "Look at the design." Bell pointed out those curves. "The material. This is from the pre-Elance era, probably about 5,100 years old." They docked with the station, the magnetic clamps engaging with surprising ease. Reed led the team through the airlock, their suits protecting them from potential danger. Inside, emergency lights flickered on as they entered. The air was stale, but breathable according to their sensors. "Life support systems still functioning after all this time?" Gray wondered aloud. "Impossible." Someone's been maintaining it, Wilson said, her hand resting on her weapon. They moved deeper into the station, finding corridors and rooms that looked untouched for thousands of years. Yet essential systems still ran, preserved by some unknown force. In the central chamber, they found their answer. A soft blue light activated as they entered, forming into a humanoid shape, a hologram of an older man in an ancient uniform. "Welcome, representatives of Earth," the hologram said. "I am Guardian, caretaker of Outpost Horizon." Reed stepped forward. "How did you know we're from Earth? Your ship's design carries elements consistent with Earth technology, despite the evolutionary changes. And you arrived in response to the signal I sent." "You sent the message?" Gray asked, excitement in his voice. "About the Accord? The hologram?" Nodded. "I was programmed to monitor this sector and activate only if certain conditions were met. Those conditions have now been fulfilled." "What conditions?" Wilson demanded. "The return of the swarm." The name hung in the air, unfamiliar yet somehow chilling. "What is the swarm?" Reed asked. Guardian's form shifted, displaying a three-dimensional image of strange, insect-like creatures with biomechanical features. "The swarm is a hive mind species that nearly destroyed all intelligent life in this sector of the galaxy 5,000 years ago." Bell stepped closer, and humanity fought them. "Humanity didn't just fight them," Guardian corrected. "Humanity led the alliance against them. The Accord was formed under human leadership, uniting 17 species in the greatest military coalition this galaxy had ever seen." Reed shook his head. "That can't be right. Our history says we retreated from a devastating war, that we barely survived." "Your history was rewritten," Guardian said simply. "Humanity didn't retreat because it lost. Humanity retreated because it won, and the victory came at a terrible price." Guardian activated a viewing screen. Ancient footage played showing massive space battles. Human ships, thousands of them, fighting alongside alien vessels against the swarming enemy. The tactics were brilliant, ruthless, and ultimately devastating. Humanity developed weapons specifically designed to target swarm weaknesses. Guardian explained as they watched biological, technological, and psychological warfare, unlike anything seen before. The footage showed entire planets being systematically destroyed, swarm hive ships burning in space. "The final offensive broke the swarm completely," Guardian continued. "But the methods used horrified even human leaders. When the war ended, Earth's government made a decision. Humanity would withdraw from galactic affairs." "But why maintain the silence for 5,000 years?" Gray asked. "Two reasons," Guardian replied. "First, shame over what was done. Second, a strategic decision. The treaty that formed the Accord contained a contingency plan. If the swarm ever returned, humanity would be called back to lead the how." "Fight once more." Lieutenant Wilson finally spoke, her voice steady. "And now they're back." "Yes," Guardian confirmed. "My sensors detected swarm activity 3 months ago, at the edge of what was once Accord space. I immediately sent the signal as programmed." Reed turned to Wilson. "You knew about this?" She nodded. "Not specifics, but Admiral Stone suspected what we might find. My orders are clear. If the threat is real, I'm to begin preparations for reactivating Earth's war machine." "What war machine?" Bell asked. "Earth has been peaceful for millennia." Guardian's hologram smiled sadly. "Dr. Bell, did you ever wonder why, despite 5,000 years of peace, Earth maintained such formidable defenses? Why your ships, though never used in war, are so well armed? The Great Silence wasn't just withdrawal, it was preparation." The hologram shifted again, showing a map of hidden facilities throughout the solar system and beyond. Weapon caches, shipyards, and military bases, all dormant but maintained in secret over the centuries. "Humanity never forgot the threat," Guardian continued. "Your leaders passed down the knowledge from generation to generation, maintaining readiness while hoping the day would never come." Reed felt cold realization washing over him. "And now that day is here." Guardian nodded gravely. "The swarm has evolved, grown stronger. The remaining Accord species have been holding them back, but they need humanity's tactical genius once more." Wilson stepped forward. "Where do we find the Accord now?" "I have coordinates," Guardian replied. "They've maintained a hidden assembly world, waiting for humanity's return. Representatives have gathered there preparing for war. Reed looked at his team, then back at Guardian. Show us everything you have on the swarm in the Accord. We need to know what we're dealing with before we make any decisions. As Guardian began displaying files and records from the ancient war, Reed sent a message back to the Harbinger. Prepare for long-range communication to Earth. Admiral Stone needs to know what we found. The ghosts of humanity's past had returned, bringing with them a choice: maintain the peace they had known for 5 millennia, or embrace the warriors they once were, and honor a debt from another age. For 5,000 years, humanity was silent, until someone calls us to war. Part 3. The Accord's Call. The Harbinger dropped out of fold space at the coordinates Guardian had provided. Captain Reed stood at the viewport, his face tight with concentration. After sending their report to Earth, Admiral Stone had ordered them to continue the mission to find the Accord assembly world and gather more information. Scan for artificial structures, Reed ordered. Captain called the sensor officer. I'm picking up multiple ships in the area. Different designs, nothing like ours. Reed nodded. Keep our stealth systems active. Let's see what we're dealing with. Dr. Bell rushed to the main screen. Those ships. They match some of the designs from Guardian's records. Those are Accord vessels. On the main screen, they could see ships of various sizes and shapes moving around a small, rocky planet. The ships were clearly military vessels, armed and armored, positioned defensively. We're being scanned, reported Athena, the ship's AI. Very advanced technology. Our stealth systems cannot hide us completely. Captain, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission. It's in standard Earth language. Reed took a deep breath. Put it through. A voice came over the speakers. Calm, measured, but clearly not human. Earth vessel, you are recognized. The Accord welcomes humanity's return. Please follow the transmitted approach vector to landing coordinates. The crew looked at Reed, waiting for his decision. How did they know we're from Earth? One officer whispered. Let's find out, Reed replied. Follow their approach vector. Keep weapon systems on standby just in case. The Harbinger descended toward the planet's surface, escorted by 2 sleek alien ships. As they broke through the cloud layer, they saw a sprawling complex built into a mountain range, partially hidden, designed to be difficult to detect from space. It's a fortress, Lieutenant Wilson observed. They landed on a designated pad near the main structure. Reed selected his team: Dr. Bell, Dr. Gray, Lieutenant Wilson, and 2 security officers. Remember, Reed told them as they prepared to disembark, we are here to gather information. Be respectful but cautious. The landing ramp lowered, and for the first time in 5,000 years, humans stepped onto the soil of an alien world to meet other species face to face. 3 figures waited for them at the base of the ramp. The central figure stood slightly taller than a human, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. To its left was a being that seemed almost plant-like, with bark-like skin and leafy growths. To its right was a smaller creature with large eyes and delicate features. The blue-skinned being stepped forward. I am Ambassador Kell of the Medusan Confederation. On behalf of the Accord, I welcome humanity's representatives. Reed introduced himself and his team. We received your message. We've come to learn more about the situation. Please follow me, Kell said, gesturing with one of his forearms. They walked through corridors carved into the mountain, passing members of various alien species. Some stopped to stare at the humans with expressions that Reed interpreted as a mix of awe and relief. They look at us like we're some kind of saviors, Dr. Gray whispered. To them, perhaps we are, Bell replied quietly. Ambassador Kell led them into a large chamber, where representatives from at least a dozen different species sat in a circular arrangement. As the humans entered, the aliens rose to their feet in what seemed like a sign of respect. The humans have answered our call, Kell announced to the assembly. An older alien with crystalline features spoke up. After 5,000 cycles, the warriors return. The prophecy holds true. Reed stepped forward. We're not warriors. Earth has been peaceful for millennia. A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the assembly. Captain Reed said, Kelson, humanity may have forgotten its nature, but the rest of the galaxy has not. The stories of your species' military prowess have been passed down through generations. Some became myth, but the core truth remained. What truth? Reed asked. That without humanity, the Accord cannot defeat the swarm, replied Kel. Not again. Kel activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed star systems at the edge of what he called known space. Dozens of worlds, some marked in red. The red markers indicate worlds already consumed by the swarm, Kel explained. They returned 3 years ago, emerging from the void beyond the galactic arm. They have evolved, adapted. Our defenses slow them, but cannot stop them. Why didn't you contact Earth sooner? Lieutenant Wilson asked. A smaller alien, with features that reminded Reed of an insect, answered. The treaty your ancestors signed was clear. Humanity would remain isolated unless the swarm returned at full strength. We have honored that treaty, protecting the borders of human space for 5,000 years. Reed looked surprised. You've been protecting us. Of course, said Kel. It was our part of the bargain. Humanity defeated the swarm and chose isolation. We promised to ensure that isolation remained unbroken. Reed turned to Bell. Did you know about this protection? Bell shook his head. Our histories mention nothing about alien guardians. There is much your people chose to forget, said Kel. But now memory must return. A door at the far end of the chamber opened. A human figure walked in, an older man in a uniform design that Reed didn't recognize. Who are you? Reed demanded. General Mark Taylor, the man replied. Earth Military Command, Outer Defense Division. That's impossible, said Dr. Gray. Earth hasn't had an Outer Defense Division for thousands of years. General Taylor smiled grimly. We've always had it, Doctor, just not where anyone could see it. Taylor explained that he had been awakened from stasis when the swarm's return was confirmed. He was one of several high-ranking officers preserved from the original war, kept as a living connection to humanity's military past. The Accord members recognized me, Taylor said. I can verify they are indeed our former allies. Reed felt overwhelmed. General, with all due respect, I need to understand what's happening. Why would Earth keep all this secret? Why maintain this fiction of peace if we've been preparing for war all along? Taylor's face grew solemn. Because, Captain, the weapons and tactics humanity developed to defeat the swarm nearly destroyed us too. The decision to retreat wasn't just about ending conflict. It was about preventing us from becoming monsters. The holographic display shifted to show images that made Reed's blood run cold. Planetary systems being systematically destroyed, biological weapons that targeted the swarm's neural networks, and psychological warfare beyond anything Reed had imagined possible. We won the war, Taylor continued, but the cost was our humanity. Our leaders feared what we might become if we continued down that path. A message alert sounded from Reed's communicator. It was from the Harbinger. A transmission from Earth had arrived, marked highest priority. Reed opened the message. Admiral Stone's face appeared, her expression grave. Captain Reed, the Council has reviewed your findings. They authorize continued investigation, but are not yet ready to commit to military action. However, she paused. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity near Neptune. Something is probing our defenses. The message ended. Reed looked up at General Taylor and Ambassador Kel. It seems, Reed said slowly, that the decision might be made for us. If the swarm is already testing Earth's defenses, we don't have the luxury of debate. Dr. Bell, who had been examining data on a nearby console, called out suddenly, Captain, you need to see this. On the screen was a map showing hidden human outposts scattered throughout former human territory. Military bases, weapon caches, and automated defense systems, all dormant but intact. Your ancestors prepared for this possibility, Kel said. They hoped it would never come, but they prepared nonetheless. Reed stared at the map, the scale of the hidden human military presence becoming clear. For 5,000 years, behind the facade of peaceful isolation, humanity had maintained the capacity for war on a scale he could barely comprehend. The question now was whether they would use it. The Harbinger returned to Earth space 3 days later, accompanied by 2 Accord ships carrying Ambassador Kel and General Taylor. As they approached the outer defense perimeter, dozens of Earth vessels moved to intercept them. Hold position, ordered a stern voice over the communication system. Unidentified vessels, You are entering restricted space. Captain Reed opened a channel. Earth Defense Command. This is Captain Jack Reed of the Harbinger. We're returning with diplomatic guests by direct authorization of Admiral Stone. There was a long pause before the reply came. Harbinger. Transmit authentication codes and prepare for escort. 6 sleek military ships surrounded them, their weapon systems clearly active. Reed noticed how the Earth vessels positioned themselves. A formation designed to destroy the alien ships instantly if needed. Your people haven't forgotten how to fight, General Taylor observed with approval. Ambassador Kell seemed unfazed by the show of force. We expected nothing less. Admiral Emma Stone waited in the lunar docking bay as the ships arrived. Behind her stood several members of the Earth Council, including Council Leader Diana Wright. Their faces were grim as they watched the alien visitors disembark. Admiral Stone. Reed saluted as he approached. Captain, she replied, then turned to the aliens. Ambassador Kell, welcome to Luna Base. I apologize for the restrictive security measures. No apologies needed, Admiral, Kell responded. Caution is wise. Council Leader Wright stepped forward. I am Diana Wright, representing Earth's unified government. Your presence here breaks 5,000 years of isolation. Unnecessary breach, said Kell, given the circumstances. General Taylor was the last to exit the ship. When Admiral Stone saw him, her eyes widened in recognition. General Taylor, she said. I never thought I'd see you awakened in my lifetime. Neither did I, Admiral, he replied. The protocols were clear. Only a confirmed swarm resurgence would justify activation. Wright looked from Stone to Taylor. You knew about him? Each head admiral is briefed on the contingency plans, Stone explained, including the existence of the sleepers. How many secrets has the military kept from the council? Wright demanded. Stone met her gaze steadily. Only those necessary to fulfill our ancient mandate. Protect Earth while maintaining the appearance of total peace. Deep beneath the lunar surface in a secured conference room, Reed watched as Admiral Stone presented the evidence they had gathered. The Earth Council members listened in stunned silence as she explained about the Accord, the returning swarm, and humanity's true history. This changes everything we thought we knew, one counselor said. No, Wright corrected. This reveals what was deliberately hidden. She stood and activated a display of her own. When I became council leader, I was given access to certain restricted historical archives. I know the real reason for our isolation. The display showed images similar to what Reed had seen in the Accord Assembly, the devastating weapons humans had used against the swarm. Our ancestors didn't retreat out of fear, Wright continued. They retreated out of shame. The methods we used to defeat the swarm were so horrible that our leaders feared what we might become if we continued to develop along that path. Ambassador Kell nodded solemnly. Your weapons targeted the swarm's shared consciousness. You found ways to turn their hive mind against itself. Effective, but the suffering it caused was immeasurable. Right, finished. And that's why I'm hesitant to bring humanity back into galactic affairs. If we awaken our war machine, can we control it? Or will we become the monsters we once feared? General Taylor stepped forward. Council leader, the swarm gives us no choice. They consume every world they touch, every being absorbed into their collective. There is no negotiating, no peaceful coexistence. Dr. Bell, who had been analyzing data since their return, cleared his throat. There's something else you should know. I've been studying the historical records we retrieved. The weapons humanity developed weren't just technological or biological. We created specific tactics designed to exploit swarm weaknesses. He displayed examples of battle plans from the old war, brilliant, ruthless strategies that had broken the swarm's forces. These weren't just weapons, Bell explained. It was our thinking that made us dangerous, our ability to innovate, to adapt, to find an enemy's weakness and exploit it without hesitation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Accord species have advanced their technology, Reed added. But according to Ambassador Kell, they lack the tactical innovation that made humans such effective warriors. Stone looked at Wright. The decision before us is clear. Do we honor our commitment to the Accord and fight, or do we maintain our isolation and hope the swarm doesn't find us? Before Wright could answer, an alarm blared through the facility. A communications officer burst into the room. Admiral Stone, the Neptune outpost is under attack. The command center of Luna Base hummed with frantic activity as reports came in. The holographic display showed Neptune's largest moon base, under assault from strange organic-looking ships. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" Stone demanded. "Unknown, Admiral," an officer replied. "They seemed to appear out of nowhere." Reed watched as the Neptune defense forces engaged the attackers. The Earth ships fought well, but the swarm vessels moved with a coordinated precision that was unnerving. "They've been studying us," General Taylor said quietly. "They remembered their old enemy." "The outpost reports 70% of defensive capabilities offline," reported an officer. "They're requesting immediate reinforcement." Stone looked at Wright, waiting for authorization. Wright's face was pale, but resolute. "Deploy the 6th Fleet." "The 6th Fleet?" Reed asked. "I wasn't aware we had numbered fleets." "There's much you weren't aware of," Captain Stone replied. She turned to a communications officer. "Send the activation codes authorization. Stone Emma Admiral Clearance Alpha 1. Throughout Earth's solar system, hidden installations began to power up. On Mars, massive hangar doors opened in what had appeared to be natural canyons. In the asteroid belt, what looked like mining operations transformed into military shipyards. Near Jupiter, orbital platforms that had been disguised as research stations revealed weapon systems more advanced than anything Reed had seen. "All this time," Reed whispered, "all this time, we were preparing. Hope for peace. Prepare for war," Taylor said. "The oldest military doctrine." Stone turned to Wright. "Council leader with the swarm directly attacking our forces. I recommend implementing Protocol Lazarus." Wright closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. "Proceed." Stone entered a series of commands into a secure terminal. Deep beneath the lunar surface, a massive military complex began to awaken. Lights activated in vast chambers filled with ships, weapons, and supplies. In specialized medical units, thousands of stasis pods powered up, beginning the revival process for soldiers and specialists prepared for this very day. "What is Protocol Lazarus?" Reed asked. "The awakening of our full military capability," Taylor explained. "Ships, weapons, and specially trained personnel kept in stasis, waiting for the day they might be needed." "How many?" Reed asked. "Enough to make a difference," Stone replied. From his position near a viewing port, Reed watched as Earth's orbital defense grid came online. Thousands of satellites and platforms that had appeared passive for centuries, now revealing their true purpose. The peaceful facade that humanity had maintained for 5,000 years was falling away, revealing the sleeping giant beneath. As Reed observed the transformation, he wondered if humanity could wield such power without losing itself in the process. Would they save the galaxy, or become what they once feared? The answer would come soon enough. 3 weeks after the attack on Neptune, Admiral Emma Stone stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought, Earth's largest warship. Hidden in the rings of Saturn for millennia, the massive vessel had been maintained in perfect condition, waiting for the day it would be needed. Stone, now bearing the title of Fleet Commander, watched as hundreds of Earth ships gathered around her. Some were newly built, others awakened from hidden caches throughout the solar system. Together with the Accord Fleet, they formed the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 5,000 years. Captain Reed entered the bridge, now wearing the insignia of a tactical commander. "Fleet is assembled and ready, Commander," he reported. Stone nodded. "And the special weapons? Dr. West has integrated the ancient anti-swarm technology with our modern systems. The tests show they're even more effective than the original designs." Dr. Olivia West had been one of the specialists awakened from stasis, an expert in the biological and technological weapons, specifically designed to target swarm weaknesses. She had spent the past weeks working with modern engineers to update and improve the old designs. "Any change in the swarm's movements?" Stone asked. "They've pulled back from Neptune and appear to be regrouping at the edge of our system," Reed replied. "Ambassador Kell believes they're surprised by our response. They didn't expect us to be so prepared." Stone allowed herself a small smile. 5,000 years of preparation has its advantages. Council leader Diana Wright, who had taken the title of High General to signify Earth's shift to war footing, joined them on the bridge. Since the attack, Wright had shown a different side of herself, revealing military training and knowledge that surprised even Stone. "The combined fleet is ready," Wright announced. The Accord captains have accepted human tactical command. They remember how we fight. Stone observed Wright carefully. You were part of this all along, weren't you? The peaceful politician was just a cover. Wright nodded. Each council leader is selected not just for their political skills, but for their ability to lead in war if necessary. We hoped the day would never come. Ambassador Kell entered the bridge, accompanied by representatives from several other E-Court species. They had adapted quickly to working with humans again, as if the 5,000-year gap had never existed. The swarm forces have been detected moving toward the Proxima system, Kell reported. They appear to be establishing a new hive cluster there. Then that's where we strike, Stone decided. Not here in our territory, but at their new foundation. The combined fleet emerged from fold space at the edge of the Proxima system. Immediately, sensors detected swarm activity. Dozens of their biomechanical ships orbiting the system's second planet. They've begun transforming the planet, reported a sensor officer. The surface is being converted into a hive structure. Reed studied the tactical display. They've positioned their ships in a defensive formation around the main hive ship. Classic swarm strategy. Protect the queen node at all costs. Stone turned to Dr. West. Are the targeted weapons ready? Yes, Commander, West replied. But I've made modifications to the original design. She displayed her changes on a nearby screen. The old weapons were designed for total destruction of the swarm's neural network. Effective but essentially genocide. I've recalibrated them to target only the command structures while leaving the drone units intact but disconnected. Why would we want to leave any of them intact? Wright asked sharply. Dr. Bell, who had been studying swarm communication patterns, stepped forward. Because we've discovered something important. The swarm has evolved over the past 5,000 years. They're not just a mindless hive anymore. He displayed his findings. Subtle variations in swarm communication that suggested individual thought patterns emerging within the collective. They're developing individual consciousness, Bell explained. The drones are becoming something more than tools of the central mind. Reed looked troubled. If they're evolving into individuals, then using the old weapons would be mass murder, West finished. Not tactical elimination of a threat. Stone considered this information. Can your modified weapons disable their offensive capabilities without destroying them completely? Yes, West confirmed. It would disrupt the Queen's control while leaving the individual units intact. Stone made her decision. We'll use the Yao modified approach. This isn't about revenge. It's about ending the threat. The battle plan was transmitted throughout the fleet. The human ships would lead the main assault, targeting the swarm's command ships with the specialized weapons. The Accord vessels would focus on containing any swarm ships that attempted to escape. As the fleet moved into position, Reed found himself thinking about the burden of humanity's history. For 5,000 years, they had hidden their true nature, not just from the galaxy, but from themselves. The peaceful civilization they had built was real, but so was this warrior spirit that now reawakened. The swarm has detected us, announced a tactical officer. They're moving to engage. All ships, Stone ordered. Execute battle plan Horizon. The human fleet split into 3 coordinated groups, executing maneuvers that confused the swarm's predictive systems. The Accord ships followed in perfect formation, trusting the human tactics that had proven effective millennia ago. Reed watched as the first wave of specialized weapons struck the swarm's command ships. Rather than destroying them outright, the weapons created cascading disruptions in their neural networks. Swarm vessels began to drift, their coordinated movements failing. It's working, West reported. The Queen node is losing control of the collective. On the main display, they could see the massive hive ship at the center of the swarm formation. It was trying to re-establish control over its forces, but the disruption was spreading too quickly. Now, Stone ordered. Targeted strike on the Queen node's command center. A small team of specialized ships broke through the swarm's defenses, delivering a precisely calculated strike. The hive ship's lights flickered and then went dark. Across the battlefield, swarm vessels stopped fighting. Some drifted aimlessly, while others seemed to move with new, uncertain patterns, like creatures suddenly awakened to individual existence. We did it, Wright said quietly, without destroying them all. A different solution than last time, Reed noted. A better one, Stone replied. We remember our history, but we don't have to repeat it. 1 month later, Captain Reed stood in the rebuilt Earth Council chamber. Representatives from all 17 Accord species filled the room, gathered to formalize a new alliance with humanity. Ambassador Kell stood beside Reed as they watched Admiral Stone and High General Wright sign the new treaty. "Your people surprised us," Kell admitted. "We expected the same warriors who fought 5,000 years ago. Instead, we found something better." "What's that?" Reed asked. "Warriors who remember the cost of war," Kell replied, "who look for better solutions." As the signing concluded, Wright addressed the gathering. 5,000 years ago, humanity retreated from the stars, ashamed of what we had become in war. Today, we return not just as warriors, but as builders and peacekeepers. She gestured to the swarm representatives standing awkwardly at the edge of the chamber, former drones now developing individual identities after being freed from the Queen's control. "Our debt to the Accord has been repaid," Wright continued. "But our journey is just beginning. Humanity will no longer hide in silence. We will use our strength to protect, our wisdom to guide, and our compassion to heal." Reed looked out at the assembled representatives of a dozen worlds. For 5,000 years, humanity had been silent, turning inward to build a peaceful society, while never forgetting how to fight. Now they would bring both those aspects of themselves to the stars, the warriors and the builders together. The silence was over, and the galaxy would never be the same.